Okay, we'll start with this.
This.
This weekend, unbeaten up-and-comer Ebony Jones will be returning to action opposite the ring veteran journeywoman Jamalette Vallejos of Nicaragua in what is a Steffi Bull promotion. Steffi Bull. That's the same Steffi Bull that handles the careers of Terry Harper, Raven Chapman.
This is his promotion.
Ebony Jones will be boxing on that show. Ebony Jones, who is managed by Let's Go Management, who manage a good number of fighters in the UK and from elsewhere in the world. Scheduled for 6 rounds in the women's featherweight division. Featherweight, that's where Amanda Serrano reigns as that division's unified ring magazine and lineal champion. That's where Sky Nicholson very recently became WBC champion as well. That's where this contest will be taking place.
Just a maintenance fight.
A little takeover fight for Ebony Jones, who has not seen action since July of last year, and that was the only fight that she had last year, the fight with Wendelin Cruz. She fought 2 times in 2022, only once last year, and this will be her first fight of this one. Ebony Jones was among the first boxers to sign to Boxer after Boxer assumed the role on Sky Sports that Matchroom had left behind. You will remember they signed a whole chunk of fighters, and some stayed on, but some didn't.
Was that like 2-3 years ago?
Just about. And they had signed a lot of fighters. They signed a lot of fighters like Georgia O'Connor, April Hunter, Ebony Jones,
As well as some fighters that had migrated from Matchroom over to Boxer like Savannah Marshall, Natasha Jonas, Chris Billum-Smith, Lawrence Okoli, eventually Joshua Buatsi.
They kept some of those fighters, and some of those fighters they didn't keep. Ebony Jones, after about 3 fights under the Boxer banner,
That relationship ended.
they must have cut her loose because she doesn't box under that banner anymore, campaigning anywhere in between 122 and 126 pounds. Ebony Jones, she's still an unbeaten fighter. She's still around. She's going to be returning to action this weekend in the women's featherweight division, and maybe now is a good time to campaign as a featherweight. Make her bones there.
Why?
Well, very soon, that division's only unified champion, Amanda Serrano, is going to be moving up to 140 pounds to take on Katie Taylor for the second time. She's in possession of 3 of the 4 titles at this weight, but you have to wonder, how long will she hold on to them?
Those titles.
The WBA, the WBO, and the IBF. Now, Ebony Jones is miles away from being ready for a fight with someone like Amanda Serrano. There's a lot more work needs doing, but if she plays her cards right over time, continues to build and have fights and win fights, she can get in position to one day fight for one of those titles that could go vacant in the near future.
See what I mean?
Ebony Jones, who is best described as a mid-range to inside boxer puncher with a very wide base, fights out of a wide stance.
She's good.
And the featherweight division is that much deeper for having her in it. This concentration of unbeaten up-and-comers we see at 126 pounds. There are several, and Ebony Jones is now one among them.
I think she was down there at 122 for a while. Now she's at 126.
In truth, there are several paths to a world title in between 122 and 126. Pick your poison. 126 is where this weekend's contest is taking place, and I've no doubts that Ebony Jones will make it past Vallejos. She should win this weekend's fight. The goal here is to get her busy, get her active, get her fighting again on a regular schedule, because it would seem that her relationship ending with Boxer affected her schedule of activity. It did make it that much more difficult for her to schedule fights and have fights without a major promoter behind her.
She should win this weekend.
The goal has to be getting in at least 2 to 3 fights before this year is out to further develop as a fighter, amass experience, and perhaps line herself up to fight for a title at some point next year, because as stated, she's miles away from being ready for an Amanda Serrano. Here and now, I don't think she's ready for a Sky Nicholson.
No, she fights too infrequently.
It's a lot more work needs doing, but she's a good young fighter. I wouldn't talk about her if she wasn't. Ebony Jones has a place at 126 pounds. She just has to work her way up to it and earn it. For now, she's going to return to action this upcoming Friday, and let's see how she makes out. Men's super bantamweight news. Ahead of his upcoming fight with the monster, Naoya Inoue, Luis Nery says Naoya Inoue is overrated, overconfident, and ordinary.
He doesn't seem to have a whole lot of nice things to say about Naoya Inoue, but then again, I don't expect them to. Doesn't make any of them true either. If anyone's overconfident, I think it's Luis.
Luis Nery, who is digging in his heels and embracing the role as the boogeyman who will blast and beat the quote-unquote monster. Nery will challenge Naoya Inoue for the undisputed crown on May 6th, ESPN Plus at the Tokyo Dome in Japan, in front of an expected crowd of over 50,000 fans.
Making it all the more asinine when people demand that Inoue fight in America instead of Japan, when no other super bantamweight in the world could fill an arena with that many people for a super bantamweight contest.
The fight marks the first time the Tokyo Dome has hosted a boxing match since the Buster Douglas knockout of Mike Tyson way back there in 1990. The former 118 and 122-pound titleist, Nery, believes he will pull off a similar shocker against his seemingly invincible opponent. Inoue is a very good fighter, and this is the biggest fight of my career. 4 titles are on the line, Nery told Boxing Scene in an interview through a Spanish translator. But I've seen his fights, and I think he's overrated. I think he's an ordinary fighter, or at least that's how it appears to me. I'm going there looking for the knockout. I'm not going to Japan looking for a decision. I have the typical Mexican style. I like to come forward. I like to throw punches. I'm prepared to go 12 rounds, but I hope it doesn't go the 12 rounds. I want to end it early. You will see a conditioned, stronger, faster, and intelligent Nery who hits hard.
Should we be worried?
Are we about to see a similar upset? A monumental one, like the one we saw when Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson at this same location. And
should we be worried?
Personally, I'm not. Personally, I'm not, because aside from Naoya Inoue's boxing acumen and his speed and his power and all those things, he's got a chin. He's got a chin, you know. He took some left hooks from Nonito Donaire that I think would have taken out most other fighters at 118 pounds at that time. I don't think Luis Nery would have stood up to the left hooks that Inoue stood up to. He's got a chin.
It doesn't get said enough.
During the kickoff press conference in Japan last month, Nery faced off against Inoue and had a chance to size him up in person. Both stand in at 5'5". He's a physically small fighter, a normal fighter, just like the rest, Nery said. It could be the upset of the year if I beat him. Inoue is not a dummy. He knows how to fight. He's not incredible in my opinion, but it can be a back and forth fight.
Nery says that Inoue's overconfident, but he sounds overconfident to me.
In some ways, he has to be. He has a monumental assignment and an uphill battle. This is what passes for a winning attitude in that situation. Not respecting Inoue too much, not drinking the Kool-Aid, and believing that he can be beaten.
That doesn't mean you're the one that's going to do it.
I don't think so.
That doesn't mean it's going to work.
I don't think it will. But for Luis Nery, the fighter, he has to have that mindset. I see that he's a fast fighter. He's intelligent. He has a lot of power, apparently. Those are his strong points. His weak point is that he opens up when he throws, and that's where I come in.
They could say the same thing about you.
In the Havanesian fight, I learned not to be overconfident, Nery said. I trained for 25 to 30 days for Havanesian. I'll be training for nearly 3 months for this fight. Meanwhile, Inoue outclassed then unified champions Stephen Fulton and Marlon Tapales with relative ease last year, knocking out Fulton in 8 and Tapales in 10 to become undisputed champion at 122 pounds. I saw the Tapales fight, Nery said. Tapales is a B-rated fighter to me. He's not good, and he lasted 10 rounds and made things difficult for Inoue. Maybe Fulton is the best win of Inoue's career, but Fulton didn't throw that many punches. He was scared.
Wait a minute. If Tapales, then a unified champion, is a B-rated fighter, what the hell was Afsat Havanesian?
Because it took Luis Nery 11 rounds to get rid of Afsat Havanesian. Where Naoya Inoue got rid of Stephen Fulton in 8 and Tapales in 10, you needed 11 to get rid of Afsat Havanesian. And what the hell was he?
He's just being a heel. That's what he's doing. He's being the bad guy because he has to be in this situation.
I didn't pay attention or care too much to the fact that the Japanese Boxing Commission had banned me, Nery said. People over there saw it was lucrative for me to fight Inoue, so that's why they lifted the ban. Maybe Inoue is taking this fight personally. It doesn't matter what he does or doesn't think, because what's done is done, and you can't erase that from history. Nery, based in Tijuana, Mexico, is also unbothered that he has to fight on the opposite side of the world with little support. More than anything, it's more calm for me, actually, he said. I'm not undefeated. I'm not the champion. Win or lose? No problem. He has the risk. There is no rematch clause. It's because he's overconfident. He thinks that an easy win is coming, but a surprise is coming. I've been training hard. It's going to be a mistake that they accepted this fight. They have nothing to win. They are doing it for honor, but they are going to regret taking this fight. Nery's confidence and braggadocio don't reflect how the bookmakers see the fight. Inoue is listed as a negative 1,400 betting favorite, while Nery is a plus 800 betting underdog. According to DraftKings, the over and under for the fight is set at 6.5 rounds. I have no idea what punch, what round, Nery said, but the fight will definitely end in a knockout. Either I knock him out or he knocks me out. He probably has the chin to take my power. We saw him take Nonito Donaire's punches in their fight in 2019. Donaire hit him and hurt him, but I am younger than Donaire, and I will be able to pressure Inoue. It will be another story with me. After several instances of changing trainers and missing weight throughout the years, Nery said he's finally gotten his career back on track, but for how much longer remains to be seen. I've been focused more in recent fights, and you've seen that. Things have gone well, Nery said. If all comes out as planned, as I understand, there could be a fight against Murodjon Akhmadaliev, and that would be my last fight. I would retire. Boxing is very boring to me in my life right now.
Really? I thought you just said you were focused.
They're saying that he got his career back on track, while at the same time Nery said that he only trained for something like 4 weeks for Afsat Havanesian, which would explain why he struggled. That doesn't sound like a focused fighter to me.
He's saying that boxing is boring.
That doesn't sound like a focused fighter to me.
My thoughts.
There may not be a rematch clause in association with this fight, but if by some chance Luis Nery pulled the upset, he'd run it back with Inoue. He'd run it back with him because that would still be the biggest money fight anywhere at or around these weights. He fought Yamanaka 2 times. In a situation like that, I think he would fight Inoue 2 times.
He would, but I don't think he's gonna have to.
I'm not underestimating Luis. He is a good and dangerous fighter. Strong puncher to most other fighters at this weight. Save this guy. Save Inoue, because where Luis has power, Inoue has power. So in a situation where both guys have power, it's all about who can land and who can land first. Well, Inoue is faster, noticeably faster than Luis Nery, more defensively sound.
The Nery?
You say that, well, Luis Nery, he is a southpaw, and those southpaws, they can be tricky. They can. But Naoya Inoue just fought a southpaw. He just fought a southpaw in his last fight in Marlon Tapales. And where Luis Nery says that we've seen Naoya Inoue hurt before, and we've seen Luis Nery knocked out before, stopped before.
By Brandon Figueroa.
The same Brandon Figueroa that could not stop Stephen Fulton, like Naoya Inoue did, stopped Luis Nery.
So you know. I have Inoue winning the fight, but I'm very interested to see what Luis can do.
Canelo was the king, but I feel like his time's passed a little bit. Canelo's definitely a great fighter, but I feel like it's Benavidez' time.
Why, because he beat Demetrius Andrade?
Benavidez, do you feel like just his size and his activity, like...
His punch output is too much for people.
Wasn't enough for Caleb Plant 2 fights ago. Caleb finished that fight on his feet. Never got knocked down, didn't get knocked out.
Even they think he just running punches and it's gonna be easy to crack him, but it'd be hard. He got some defense in there.
No, what he has is a size advantage that he uses to fight smaller, older, lighter punchers than himself.
And so it works well for him.
Well, people don't understand, right? Like you're in the gym, you see this, right? You know a fighter that gasses out, and you know a fighter that keeps building. Once it goes 4, 5, 6, he's just getting stronger and better. Like Robisi, when we brought that up, for instance. Do you feel like that's one advantage Benavidez will have against Canelo with the stamina?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Canelo's not the same fighter he was. Benavidez, he's in his prime right now. He's 100% dedicated.
Does this look like a guy who's 100% dedicated to you? Getting plastered ahead of what's supposed to be his heavyweight debut? He's dedicated.
So I feel like he'd be in a lot better condition than the Canelo in later rounds, so definitely have the advantage.
I don't know about that. How many hard punchers has David actually fought who can take something out of him, take something out of his engine, his gas tank, in between the punches and those highlight reel shoe shines?
How many?
I believe that a lot of these guys talk up David Benavidez because they're told to talk him up. All these guys that are associated with the PBC, that is young Kermel Moton, Floyd Mayweather's latest protege, who's connected to Floyd who's connected to the PBC that promotes David Benavidez.
It's a point
to thank Al Heyman after a fight the same way you would say grace, the same way you would thank God when something goes right. He's got these guys doing this. He's been had guys doing this for years and years. You've seen guys do it. And if you could make it a point that you have to thank Al Heyman after a fight, then surely you could make it a point to talk up David Benavidez, no matter how asinine or ridiculous it sounds.
It's brainwashing.
That Canelo Alvarez's time as king, that time has passed, and it's David Benavidez's time at a time when nobody bought his last 2 pay-per-views, nobody bought his box office fights, so he hasn't surpassed Canelo in terms of sales. He certainly hasn't surpassed him in terms of resume. David Benavidez is 27 years old now, 27. By age 27, Canelo Alvarez had already been a champion at junior middle and middle. He had already fought Floyd Mayweather, Austin Trout, Erislandy Lara, Miguel Cotto, Liam Smith, Gennady Golovkin. That's what Canelo was doing by age 27. What's David doing?
Getting drunk ahead of the Vosdick fight.
So, in what way did David Benavidez surpass him, since that's what young Kermel Moton is saying? When did he surpass him? How did he surpass him as the king? In what way?
How?
Or is that just what they're telling you to say, the way they're telling so many guys to talk up David, to talk him up? When you see Jim Lampley claim that David has what it takes to make it as a heavyweight, or when Paulie Malignaggi goes on a rant, a tirade, talking up David but talking down Canelo.
It's a joint effort.
You can call me crazy, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, but when I look at what David has done so far, rather what he hasn't done, and what people are saying about him, it just doesn't match.
What the fuck are you so excited about? Because he beat Caleb Plant?
Because he beat Demetrius Andrade. If you're that fucking excited, there can't be that many people that share in your excitement, because next to nobody bought David's pay-per-views. He's on an undercard now.
If he were good for 250 or 300,000 pay-per-view buys, you're not going to stuff him on an undercard. You're going to have him headline his own show.
You went from being the main event in your own shows to being the co-main event in Gervonta's, and that can't be because of how many legions of fans you have.
Bullshit.
Thus, when I see people talk him up, the way they talk him up, people associated with the PBC in some way, shape, or form, I just get the impression they're being told to say this.
Like they're told to thank Al Heyman after a fight?
They're told to talk up David Benavidez as the next big thing. King shit! For having done what?
What he was supposed to do?
As much as you guys talk him up, the least he can do is beat Caleb Plant. The least he can do is beat a 36-year-old Demetrius Andrade who was never a big puncher and didn't do much at super middleweight anyway. That's the least he can do.
The bare minimum.
It's a fucking psyop is what it is. You're just trying to brainwash everybody.